Hey, good morning, everybody. Many of you know the remarkable story of Senator John McCain. During the Vietnam War, McCain, a lieutenant in the U.S. Marines, and several of his men were captured. And his story of survival centers primarily around one room, a cell at the POW compound nicknamed the Hanoi Hilton. McCain lived there as a prisoner for more than 5 years. And during much of his imprisonment, he endured solitary confinement. He was allowed little or no contact with other prisoners and only had his thoughts to keep him company. McCain later said that the only way he maintained his sanity during that ordeal was by coming up with tricks to prove to himself that he was not truly alone. He and the other prisoners developed a communication system that consisted of tapping on the walls of their cells in a type of Morse code. By doing this, they could send short messages back and forth. And often these messages consisted of just 2 words: stay strong. McCain says that without this small but vital communication with his fellow prisoners, loneliness would have destroyed him. McCain's right, isn't he? Loneliness is an overwhelming force that most of us have to deal with at some point in our lives. You might have the nicest house, the best cars, you can enjoy plenty of food and water, sunshine and air, but if you keep a man alone, you'll destroy him. The disciples knew this too. In John 14, Jesus has just informed the disciples that He was going to be leaving. I shared about this a couple weeks ago. And when they heard about that, it was like a punch in the gut. And so they begged Jesus, let us come with you. We want to go too. They didn't want to be alone. But instead of allowing all of them to go with them, Jesus says, "No, you can't go with me." But He does leave them with some more words of life. He tells them in John 14, "I'm telling you these things now while I'm still with you, but when the Father sends the Advocate as my representative, that is the Holy Spirit, He will teach you everything and will remind you of everything I've told you." It's clear, isn't it? The good news is this: when Jesus went to the cross and rose on the 3rd day, not only did He conquer death, He also conquered everything that was wrong with the world, everything that was not good, including the pain of loneliness. Jesus' greatest gift to believers who wait for the Lord's return is the power of His presence through the Holy Spirit. Jesus promised another counselor who would be with all believers. And today, we're left with that same promise. Because of the gift of God's Holy Spirit, we are never alone. And get this, the Holy Spirit is not a once-in-a-while companion. One thing that is very clear about the Lord, He is a forever kind of God. He's eternal in nature. And this is so important to remember. Because you'll hear sometimes after a worship service or after some spiritual gatherings, people will say, "Wow, the Spirit was really here tonight." Or, "Man, the Holy Spirit showed up tonight and it was awesome." Now, the Holy Spirit may make His presence known in a more obvious way on certain nights or days, but let's never get caught up in the belief that He ever leaves the believer, or that on some nights you have less of Him than on other nights. Friends, Christ is guaranteed His Spirit will be with us always. That's why He said in Matthew 28, verse 20, "Surely I am with you always." That's the reality of the Holy Spirit. Christian life isn't hard. It's impossible. But Christ becomes our power for living. That's why Christ chose to live in us, to empower us for right living for Him. It's like a glove. I can pick up a glove and tell it to pick up a Bible, but it can't do it. I can yell at it and even show the glove how to do it, but it can't do it on its own. But when I put my hand in the glove, that's when it becomes alive and can do anything I do. Galatians 2 verse 20 says, "Not I, but Christ lives in me. He is my strength. And I can do all things through the power of Christ, who now indwells me with His Spirit." So today, stay strong. Jesus says, "I am with you always. You are not alone."